So my name is Jonathan Kaye, no relation to Jonathan Pierce you've just heard from. I represent a company called Laird. I'm not going to dwell too much on what it is that we do. We will go at the end of this into some more product-specific information. But really what I wanted to convey in this presentation was the depth and range of applications that we've seen from our customer base so far in our journey within the LoRaWAN technology space. So we're going to go all the way from sheep at one end of the spectrum to fridge freezers in fast food restaurants at the other end of the spectrum. And these are some of the customers we're going to talk to. So these are our actual specific customers shipping their product in volume in different regions throughout the world. We're going to talk through a company called Hoofprints and their sheep livestock management system. A little bit about SensorStream and a couple of different applications that they have. The linking factor in all of these customers is, of course, TTN. That is the backbone, the network server that's holding all of this together. We're going to talk to a customer called Fractal in Germany, and that's structural monitoring of bridges and buildings. And then a little bit about a French company called Exter Connect. And finally, a US company called ComplianceMate. I tried to spread the bridge of countries around just to try and be as open and as wide as possible, predominantly European driven, which is really how we're finding the LoRa market so far. And then finally, we'll wrap up and close. If we have a lot of time, then we can dive into the specific products and Laird solutions that we're offering, or we can just take questions and see where we go from there. We have a booth, a tabletop environment in the middle. We have FAEs. We have some of our engineering base here, if you've got any specific questions you want about the products themselves. So, Hoofprints. Now, Hoofprints provided this, which I thought was one of the most fantastic sentences that I have no real clue what it means. Enabling technology-infused sustainable food production systems. Who can explain what that is? Because I couldn't. So they gave me some extra slides. What they are, again, data-driven agricultural tech startup. They're really selling into the farmers, estate managers, livestock holders, providing a full end-to-end ecosystem, so everything that you would expect in the types of applications and solutions that maybe you are developing. So hardware, software design, app development, web design to go with it, the back-end infrastructure, the data visualization, but really focusing on this application, livestock monitoring, the activity of sheep, the location of where those sheep are, and particularly for them and why they picked LoRa, they wanted connectivity in remote areas, which is where the sheep tend to live, that have limited or no cellular connectivity. So LoRa provided a nice fit into their market application. So this is the platform that they've developed. This is their Rev1 board. It's got a little bit smaller. It fits, you can't quite tell on the picture, but it fits on a collar around the sheep's neck. Powered by LoRaWAN. It's around 1 year of battery life, and we'll talk about the sensors and the technologies they've put on this platform in the next slide. But there's an awful lot going on this board for a sheep. Again, no cellular network. Up in the mountains of Scotland, the wild remotes of Wales, even some parts of England, we don't have great cellular connectivity everywhere. And again, anyone in this rural world, they're going to know that your phone really doesn't work, and if you want your sheep to dial in, you're going to have to find a way to do it without cellular. They also like the ability to own their own network, or the farmers or livestock owners to own and control the network themselves, rather than being reliant on a big, faceless cellular company that they really had no control or ownership over. And then finally, they're using a simple progressive web application. Again, you've got to see what the data is. A lot of the work that they did with the farmers was that they don't want a sexy app. Farmers don't really care too much about apps on their phones. Their fingers are very large. They're used to working outdoors. They don't hit touch screens very well. I can say this because my dad is a farmer. And he has a phone for one purpose. And his buying criteria, it has to ring very, very loud so he can hear it in a tractor. That's his only need for a phone. So what they wanted to be able to do was show them the ability when they get back to the base in their offices, how they can see this on a screen that they can utilize, which is generally a PC environment. So they went for a web-based application approach rather than an actual app on a phone. But again, if the farmer is a little bit more technology literate, you can still pull that up using your phone. So my friend here, Sean the sheep over on the left, was very happy with this solution so far. It combines 6-axis gyro, accelerometer, temperature. It's got Bluetooth, it's got LoRa, it's got NFC, and it's got GPS inside this thing. Routing through gateways, and the provision here from Laird is we have the module inside of the sheep collar, the tracking collar. We're providing the gateways, both indoor and external gateways. Everything's routed through the Things network, and then they've got an IBM cloud implementation at the back end of that. Why? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this with a sheep? The reason for them, obviously, geolocation. Where are these sheep up this wild mountain area? They want to know about their grazing behavior. They want to know where they are, what they're up to. They also want to know whether they're laying down, whether if they're all sprinting around a field and all running around haywire, there could be an issue there about something that's actually trying to attack the sheep or get after them, so they have a level of threat detection. Again, for the farmer, reduces mortality rates. And then social interactions of sheep. Very important information for a farmer, apparently. But then you think about it and go, okay, so, are the ewes and their lambs, coordinating? Do they have interaction? Is this lamb that's just been born out there all on its own with no mother? And again, better control over the flock genetics. Are they interspersing and having some form of social interactions between the sheep? So again, how LoRa and TTN and Laird can assist in terms of sheep and livestock management. SensorStream, company in the UK, not too far from where I live, in the northwest of England. They really produce a whole range of different devices. They came from a cloud enablement, cloud platform space, and then found that they couldn't get the sensors and devices to enable them to get the data out of the platforms. And so they've generated their own multi-use, what they class as stick and forget IoT sensors. I won't talk too much around this area. It's all much of the same. It's all the world that you've come from, that you know very well. Smartphone apps, end-to-end ecosystems, gateways, base stations, low power, long-range sensors. Nothing too new there or innovative, but some of the applications are interesting. Again, I come from a farming background. I always seem to find farming applications, and this was another one. They found, and they had a lot of customers in rural Scotland, literally the wilds of nowhere whatsoever, and they had farms that have lots of very expensive equipment, from ATVs through tractors to fields with crops that they've invested a lot of money in terms of the drilling, planting, tilling, getting that soil ready. They had a lot of problems with things such as poachers, people just driving around on the land, people stealing the equipment. They wanted to be able to get a better view on their farm at any point in time. So they wanted to be able to secure their farm roads, i.e., is the things coming in and out of this area when they shouldn't be? They wanted to secure their outbuildings. Farms are a big, sprawling environment. CCTV can't capture everything. Again, so using this for capturing information about the outbuildings. They wanted temperature, humidity monitoring of some of the silos and the buildings outside, and some of the crops that they'd brought into the buildings. Tractor and quad bike movements, i.e., is this somebody from the farm going out onto this field, or is this somebody that's going out to shoot pheasants, hares where they shouldn't be and go poaching? And then, obviously, customizable alerts, farm maps, displays, and again, real-time monitoring to their phones. Now, this particular set of farmers were a little bit more phone literate than my own or the last application we talked to, so they were more than happy with a phone-style app and alerts coming through to those devices. These here, if you can see on the middle of this gate post, these are their fit and forget sensors. They call them action monitors. IP67 enclosures, again, because of the environment that they're working in. Long distance, in this application in Scotland, they got a range of just around 22 kilometers. Now again, you all use LoRa, you all know the games that they played. They put that antenna as far up the chimney stack on the farmhouse as they could possibly get it. They put additional gateways on the tops of some of the highest peaks. Battery life so far, depending on the usage, around that 1 to 5 years. You hear often touted around LoRaWAN sensors. Again, mobile app alerts. And from our standpoint, it's again using our 868 LoRa BLE module that we provide. And again, they did end-to-end the mobile apps. They did the design of the hardware. They did the installations. They're using TTN, and then they're monitoring everything at the back end as well. So end-to-end ecosystems for rural farm security. One of their recent applications is in Manchester through their TTN Manchester branch. They're building the buildings IoT, as they'd like to call it, and about the open data, providing a consent framework for the people that are using it to get the information out of that building. They all have open access to a rich data set about what is happening within the building. A combination of TTN, SensorStream, and REN's Metropole. And again, for the building owners, what they wanted was simple fit and forget sensors. They didn't want something wired in. They didn't want something that they had to get installation engineers to do the actual process of putting these devices in place. And again, the Action Monitor, slightly different product this time. It doesn't need the IP67 enclosures from the sheep application. So again, just a repackaging attempt for the same underlying board. Again, temperature, humidity monitoring. We've touched upon the fix and forget. One of the things they were really interested in was movement and occupancy of buildings. Who was going where, which buildings were being used, what trend maps over what time, so they could start doing some analytics over certainly electricity usage, the air conditioning in the building, all different ways of which they could pull data out of this building and be able to monitor and control it. And in this one, they're also using our LoRaWAN gateway. So we get both the sensors themselves using LoRa, up to a gateway, again, using LoRa, which they can configure over Ethernet or 2.4 or 5 gig Wi-Fi. Fractal technologies. I'll try and kind of whiz through some of this, but a German engineering company that saw that there was something needed in terms of how do you monitor buildings, and particularly for them, bridges, in what were quite harsh RF environments where really you don't want to be having constant ongoing maintenance of the installation of sensors. They've got to be able to work, and they've got to be able to work for as long a period as possible. So in terms of the general architecture that they've set up there, again, nothing overtly or unique about this, other than the mix of sensors and then the usual LoRaWAN ecosystem to the back end, using a mixture of piezoresistive force sensors, pressure sensors, and displacement sensors located across big buildings and bridges. Particularly for them, bridges is their forte, so that they can detect any kind of movement, any kind of stress, any pressure buildups. Really, again, build up the life history and the life cycle of a building over time. Try and get in front of events. You don't want an event. And in his world, it's a bridge collapse, a large problem there, because that could effectively, that has an effect on human life. A little bit more about the sensors themselves. I'll kind of push on through this into the next bit. But again, this is what they actually look like. This was the final installations that go into the bridge environments. IP67, full industrial temp ranges, PV and battery powered, again, to try and get the maximum battery life out of these things. A whole range of resistors, and the requirements were that they must be flame resistant as well. I'm still not quite sure why a bridge over a river needs flame resistance, but these sensors have them. And pressure valves as well, just to make sure they're safe. Again, they build up the sensor power modules, and again, they've got different variants for both the European market and the North American market. They're using BLE for the provisioning of the sensors, and then LoRaWAN in terms of the long-range connectivity to and from them. A nice graphic and a lot more text about effectively the same thing. They want to get out ahead through continuous data analysis of any possible cause of concern around the health and the lifespan of that bridge, so that they can get in front of what could be a catastrophic event in terms of the bridge itself. ExtaConnect. more things along the same theme, really. Site and asset security solutions. So for them, it's industrial and home security businesses. Again, very similar to what we've seen before. Hardware, software, web app enablement, full end-to-end ecosystem. One very large element they have is a full-scale manufacturing arm to their business as well. From a design standpoint on LoRa, it's quite new to them, but they're used to building sensor platforms. They're used to building them in volume, and they've got the logistics and the kind of the back-end supply chain in place to be able to do this in good numbers. Again, a little bit more about the design and what the board looks like. LoRaWAN and BLE, again, you'll find a similar vein through all of this. We were the first company to produce a fully integrated LoRa and BLE module solution. And again, this is another company taking advantage of that. Real-time alerts, they're using these things for beaconing. So a lot of people look at BLE just to use for the configuration of the LoRa interface itself or the sensor itself. But once they've done the configuration, this company is using it for BLE beaconing of these sensors, so you can locate them, you can see the movement of them. And then also at the other end, they'll be able to see when devices, from the gateway, see when devices are going past, build up heat maps of the interactions between phones and these sensors to the gateways, and that's its location. Again, on a whole host of sensors thrown in: temperature, RTCs, magnetic reset switches. Fully encrypted, and then one of the key things we've seen again and again, easy installation and setup. The BLE is such a handy feature to enable that wireless connectivity into what are generally IP enclosed boxes. You don't want to be able to have to physically get access into those, and again, using a short-range wireless interface provides a nice advantage for customers. And again, some of the products that they've implemented into perimeter detection, some of the zone marking areas, both in houses and industrial security applications, using TTN as well as a couple of other network server vendors within France and also within Asia. And again, one more about, again, everyone has to have an app, and they have an app and web-based devices as well for the front end. The last one I'm going to talk to is a little bit different. This is our only US-based customer that's on this list. Company is called Compliance Mate. Again, usual highly exciting tagline that they come up with, enabling technology-infused sustainable food production systems. Again, another one I have no clue what that is. Can we see a bit more of the detail? And the detail becomes a little bit more interesting. They are a software company. They're a software as a service company. They really focus on food safety and kitchen operations, particularly when it comes to the areas of compliance. So their main marketplace at the moment is what they call quick serve restaurants, which to the rest of us is fast food chains. What they do, hardware and software for temperature monitoring and reporting, which then enables them through their software and server platforms to digitize, capture, log, and then report that operational activity. And that's the key bit. That's the bit that they need to prove compliance to the various states and nationally within the US, and then also to their stakeholders, to the fast food restaurants that they're providing. They have detailed logs of everything that's going on in that restaurant, from Bluetooth-enabled probe monitors to handheld tablets, so they can see, is this food up to temperature, and they can do spot checks, through to the devices that we're going to talk about that actually go inside the fridges and freezers within these restaurants that report out different status activity as well as the temperature and the humidity. So this is the device. You'll see it's effectively a white labeled version of one of the sensors we have on our tabletop. Again, surprise, surprise, multi-wireless, which is LoRaWAN and BLE. And again, just on that point, that is our background. Laird as a company in the wireless space has been working in Bluetooth and BLE since its inception. We were part of the first Bluetooth specification, and so we tend to go with I think it's a quote that goes down to Sheldon, that everything is better with Bluetooth. And so we pretty much will go along the same design matrix whenever we produce a new product. So what we did in this platform, though, is it's using Nordic Semiconductor as the core. We use the Cortex M0 from that current revision of the Nordic silicon to drive then the Stackforce Semtech code to run the LoRa stack itself. It's got fully integrated temperature and humidity sensors. It's an IP65 enclosure. 2 standard AA batteries, and then also in this product, integrated antennas. So that has enormous benefits in this market for compliance, mate. A lot of the sensors that you'll find for this market get physically installed inside fridge freezers. Terrible RF environment, but something that LoRa, with its properties and its abilities, enables you to punch through. And the reason why they required the integrated antennas is that the people that get food in and out of these freezers really don't care too much about the sensors. It's not core for them. They're working on relatively minimum wage. They don't really, how they clean them isn't the nicest thing. So if you've got an external antenna that's stuck there, people will grab them, push them, poke them, pull them, and if the antenna goes, the whole platform falls down. Having it integrated is better from a cleaning and aesthetics, and also from a maintenance and general quality of the product itself. So these go inside the freezers. They then route out to a gateway. The gateway then bridges to IP, whether that's through Ethernet or through the Wi-Fi. They like the ability to do either or, so they can give the individual restaurant holders their choice of where they want it, of how they want to do the connectivity. They sell these in bundles of, a small fast food restaurant will have 2 freezers, and then the back office will have, their usual kind of office where they mount these indoor gateways, and it's all mini little private LoRaWAN networks inside each fast food restaurant. Again, they scale it, they provide the probes, they provide the tablets, they provide anything that's needed, and really where they've come from is not the hardware or software market. They've come from the server back end, their platform, the bit where it all pushes up to the cloud. They do all of the data visualization, all of the logging, and they make that data into useful data that a restaurant owner and the corporation can make sense of. They don't need to know the twos and fros, the backwards and forwards. They need the alerts. They need the notifications when something has gone wrong. So in this world, if you leave a freezer door open overnight, over long extended periods of time, the temperature obviously drops. And then for them, that gives them issues about, is that food still okay? Is there any perishability of that food? Do they have a problem? And is that something that they have to flag to the restaurant that they can go and get somebody to go fix? So we've gone all the way into a world where actually LoRaWAN is not something they care about. They don't care it's LoRaWAN. They have an application challenge that needed to be fixed. They had a terrible RF environment that needed to get data from a freezer to a device that could then bridge it to the cloud. They're using TTN as the network server behind that, and then their own server software platform on the cloud at the front end, which is the only bit they care about. They have to be backed by secure, reliable, robust, great performing RF connectivity, and the fact that it's LoRa was irrelevant to them. The fact that it simply worked was the key bit for their application. They don't market this as LoRa, they just market it as robust, reliable wireless connectivity, but all of this is LoRa in the back end and TTM behind that. Again, the usual benefits that I think we've talked through about LoRa. That's about most of the time that I've got. That covers 5 different applications: sheep monitoring, remote farm monitoring, asset security, both industrial and residential, all the way then into effectively freezer and food compliance monitoring. The link between all of these is ourselves, which is Laird. We make modules, very similar to Jonathan Pierce from Microchip, who came before. Again, we integrated this on a platform of Nordic plus the 1272, all the way back at the end of 2015 onwards. We built then our portfolio to add in the sensor platform, and then we have a range of gateways, both indoor, now outdoor. And we also take our concentrator card, effectively the 8-channel LoRa SX1301 1257 combo, and we produce that as a standalone M2.interface card. So if you're building your own gateway, there's a fully certified FCC ICCE card available that you can take and plug into any Linux platform, pull down the Semtech server code, and off you go. Us and TTN, it's been a long road of many years worth of development. We actually base everything that we provide externally on in terms of documentation, our configurations for TTN. We are, relatively network server agnostic. We will use anyone, but what we have found is that predominantly TTN is the one that people always want to start with and tend to use far more prevalently than any of the others. And so when we build out customer solutions or we build out any of our documentation, we base it on TTN. So all of our gateways, we have simple drop-downs, presets inside the gateways for TTN. You simply go to the web UI, pull down which region you're in, pull down where you want it to go to, and pretty much that's it. If you can't get your gateway on TTN in about 10 minutes, then we've done something wrong both in our documentation and the implementation. It's a very simple, robust packet forwarding solution for a gateway. The full forwarder is integrated, and everything that they provide in terms of channel management is included as well. Final slide, and I'm going to leave it here. This shows, or we tried to do the usual nice fancy graphical depiction of what on earth this LoRa world is about. So we showed some of the different applications, some of the different applications for it. But I've only shown you 5 or 6 different applications out of literally hundreds. We found that the appetite for LoRa, the appetite generated by the TTN community has led to applications that we as a device manufacturer would never have thought of and never seen in reality. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your ideas. And if you'd like to come and talk to us, we're out there in the middle of the main hall. And I think that about wraps up my talk on time, give or take. Thank you.